have the same age. We are also about 30 plus years of experience in management education and experience sharing with Rajkot and nearby community. And more or less, the organization is trying to do the similar sort of activities on HR and other side of uh, businesses in Vadodara and maybe nearby areas. And we are very glad that we could work out a synergy and having this program of employability post COVID. In my opinion, the subject is very apt at the moment. Why? Because uh, the COVID or this 2020 may become a reference point for many industries and and in particular the employees also, because the skill set and the domains which we will which will flourish over a period of time, and their share will change. A lot of things are happening. So for example, manufacturing, I was talking to some of the my contacts over weekend, and I could see that a lot of manufacturing units would migrate from China and other sectors. So manufacturing as a base, in my opinion, in next 10 years is going to grow rather than degrow, or vis-a-vis service industry. And also this digital aspects or digital businesses are going to grow, and a lot of digital skills need to be acquired by the employees, so as the role of RMA and other organization in terms of facilitating communities, facilitating individuals in terms of being worthy towards the employability or the overall social goals is very important. And I would request all to share their experience and make this session as more towards discussion. And when we complete this session, it should be more of learning from for all of us on what to do next. If you are an organization which is helping employability, what we should be doing, and if you are an employee, what all care you need to take in terms of improving your competencies and skill set. I think we should get certain insight out of this. So that's the expectation from very senior mentors and leaders who are going to present their views, and I'm sure this is going to be really helpful. And in due course of time, we can have many more such programs. So with that, I hand it over to Forum, and let's use this opportunity to discuss, deliberate, and learn out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Parag bhai. I would request Mr. Kothari, who is president of Gujarat Employees Association, to address the audience. He is specialized in the fields of finance and administration, and he's currently engaged in managing family businesses of Gujarat Plug in Device Private Limited, REO GPD Inductive Components Private Limited, and Quick Sales and Services. He has experience in administration and a pillar growth of these three group companies in capturing new market as well as enhancing production capabilities. So welcome you, sir, and I would request to address, and then we can move forward to our first speaker. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Forum. And thank you, Parag ji, for introduction and setting the tone for today. It is really great. GEO has been able to partner with Rajkot Management Association, and we are able to have this session in Rajkot, and more importantly, the virtual session. It is great that we have your support. I won't take much time because I know you are all ready and waiting to hear our speaker today, but I will just give a very brief about what GEO is, what we are doing, and also a little bit about what the topic for today is going to be about. So at the Gujarat Employers Organization is basically was set up in 1980s, and it is a non-profit organization of employers as members. we have been set up to promote the solidarity and facilitate relations between employers and employees. Through the tripartism mechanism, we have to gather and develop trust between the government, employers, and employees. GEO is a registered trade union facilitating the and representing the employers in various government forums as well as legal forum. We are working to ensure that the stakeholders of industries, that is the employers, employees, and government, have a win-win situation and develop. And GEO has been working as a knowledge partner in the field of IR, HR, labor, and other aspects. We have more than 250 members spanning from Kutch to Valsad in the state of Gujarat, and we represent GEO, the state of Gujarat to our parent body, that is AIOE, national level, and ILO on an international level. So this being a little brief about GEO, I would now like to move on to what we have in store for today. Employability in the post-COVID era. This is the topic and theme for today. And you know, as the famous saying goes, that the future is not what it used to be. So what we were doing in the past, in the future, we have to change ourselves. Change is always good. Change always brings new ideas, fresh thoughts, and brings dynamism to our business. In the past few months, we have redefined the way we live, work, and pretty much enjoy anything that we do. So beyond this point, it is hard to pinpoint the exact threats and opportunities for employment in the post-COVID era, the way the businesses and consumers have responded, and the new circumstances, which gives a fair ideas of which sector we stand to gain or lose. The four most hardest hit sectors by the pandemic are wholesale, retail trade, vehicular repair, manufacturing, accommodation and food, real estate, and business administration services. So mostly that the service industry has really been hit very hard, and mentioned that the corresponding effect on the manufacturing sector as well. So what is the opportunities that are going to emerge in the COVID, and how we can take the maximum advantage of it is what we will be discussing today. So with this brief introduction, I would like to now hand over the mic back to Ms. Forum to please take the session forward with the introduction of the first and the actual session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kothari, for setting the context. We have our senior speaker today joining with the reference of GEO, Mr. S.K. Raijada, and I will briefly introduce him, though you have all might have gone through his brief introduction in the poster we have circulated. He is alma mater of MS University, Baroda, and postgraduate from the Faculty of Social Work. Dr. Sarvamandan Raijada is one of the most well-known towering personalities in the HR fraternity. For his outstanding achievement in the field of HR and IR, he was honored as Jewel of India Award by Indian Solidarity Council and Vijay Ratan Gold Medal by International Institute of Education and Management, New Delhi. He is regarded as one of the top 100 successful HR professionals in India, and his efforts got recognized in the global revered book published by Dun & Bradstreet in HR Best Practices 2015 and 17. Currently, he is working in Parimal Glass. He is a chief mentor at Parimal Group. Welcome you, sir, with addressing the community of Rajkot, and very much looking forward to this. May I request all the participants to make it more engaging, and meanwhile, you have any questions, you can post it in the chat room, and we can take it later. Thank you so much. Over to you.
So, good evening, and first of all, thank you very much to Rajkot Management Association and GEO for a very apt topic at this hour of time. So without wasting time, let's look at which are the issues which are bothering much on a human angle. So I was going through the research done by Jos Burzin, one of the leading management firm. Which are the top issues for the HR department as of now, which handles your critical component of human resources? The most important top issues today for HR is health of employees, almost 26%. Transition for remote work, create engagement while working remotely. These are the top issues. Protect employee jobs, because every now and then we listen that job slats are happening, and continuity of business operations. These are some of the important issues. Along with that are the increased long-term viability of a business and the engagement of employees. While which are the topics or the issues which employees have in their mind, the most important issue is the job security, almost 54%. Personal health, which is around 38%, and childcare, homeschooling, personal finances, remote work. These are, and the viability of employer. These are the issues which hovers around the employees in their mind. And as said earlier, this is a new normal era where after 100 years of flu in 1918, first time we are experiencing this pandemic. So everything is absolutely chartered in an uncharted way of life. So how do we look at it? So first of all, in this era, what is the talent pool available with us, and how do India ranks itself for the talent pool? If we look at it, the global talent ranking for Asia Pacific countries, we were at 53, ranking of 53 in 2018, which went down in 2019 at 59. This is an alarming situation, because with this kind of ranking, our talent pool is not recognized to be employable. That's a very, very important aspect. Now, let's look at it. I was going through a little bit of a data. You will be surprised to know that we have more than 1100 universities, more than 14 lakh schools, and 33 crore students. With this vast amount of talent pool available, how do we fare in terms of employability? If we see the employability, the BE and BTech in 2019, they were employable by 57.19%, followed by MBAs by 36%. BA came third with 29%, which is low. Now it is going down, and you will be surprised that MCA, B Pharma, Polytechnic colleges, they were the hard and most worst affected areas. And if we have this kind of talent pool, how do we make our students, our professionals more employable? I call it, we need 21st century skills. And if we have to see the 21st century skills, which are the top 10 employability skills which employers look at it? They look at it communication and interpersonal skills. We must improve our communication level. And how do we interact with our colleagues, with our superiors, with our juniors? And are we able to communicate the way we want to communicate? We must ask this question to ourselves and introspect. Second important skill is the problem solving skills. 80% of our people, frontline supervisors, they come out with a question. How many of them come out with a question and an answer? Problem solving lies at the shop floor level. Problem solving lies at the first level of management. And that's an important skill. Another important skill is to use your own initiative and become self-motivated. That's a very important thing. In this era of uncertainty, you have to keep on motivating yourself and make yourself more initiative oriented. And please learn to work under pressure. This era is of uncertainty, this era is of volatility, hence the pressure will continue. There are no 9 to 5 jobs. Even the public sector banks and public sector institutions are working late. Earlier, those who were working late were blamed. Today, it is an hour of the and need of an hour. We can't change this. Understand this. Another important skill required is the organizational skills. Get yourself organized and get your work done. How you are going, you alone cannot do everything. Are you a team player? Are you able to collaborate? Are you able to communicate? These are some of the things which are very important. And then comes the team working. Gone are the days where the leader or the boss is always right. I think the verbatim, the phrase is changing. It is the team which either makes or mars the organizations, the institution, the nation. Hence, learn to live in a team, learn to accept the differences, learn to win over the differences and come out as a winner. Another important aspect is the ability to learn and adapt. Are we adaptive? Are we able to learn? In order to learn, you have to unlearn and relearn. These are no quick fix solutions. You have to look long term in this totally uncertain environment. Another important skill which employers look at is your calculating numbers, numeracy. Are you able to calculate your number properly? Many of HR professionals talk beautifully, but when it comes to number, they juggle. And this is very common for all other functions bearing finance and accounts and technical. But we must learn this. And as an Indian, we are learning this very fast. Another important skill which now employers and multinational companies are looking at is the valuing diversity and differences. Gender diversity will come, differences of cultural will come, and we must value it, we must respect it, and we must form a formidable alliance. And the last and most important skill is you must know how to negotiate. Negotiation is within the colleagues, negotiation is within the team, negotiation is with your superior, and negotiation is intra-functional, intra-department, or against the customer and the vendor. These are some of the most important things which you need to know, because employers are looking at those skills. Until and unless we have those skills, we do not become employable so easily. And therefore, I say that for 21st century, there are 4 C's which are important. Communication, which is sharing of thoughts, ask question, and give ideas and solution. This is communication. Another C is collaboration. Working to reach a goal, putting talent, expertise, and smart ideas to work. That is collaboration. Another C is the most important in today's time is critical thinking. Looking at problems from a different way, new perspective. We used to say from out of the box thinking. That critical thinking and link it to the learning across subjects and disciplines. This is going to be a major winning factor. Whichever company, whichever institution, whichever employer, whichever nation looks at critical thinking, they are going to be the path breakers in a coming time. And last C is the creativity. Are we able to create? Are we able to create ideas? There are companies where I have seen the ideas are rewarded. Not action. Understand, ideas. It is the idea which leads you to the action. And therefore, look at new approaches to getting things done with equal innovation and invention. These are these are the four C's, which is very, very important, not only for employability, for sustaining and thriving the business in a coming time. Now I'll come to which are the important soft and hard skills. Which are the skills which are most relevant in 2020? As I said, just a matter of repetition, but 5 soft skills are very important in a time to come. Creativity, persuasion. Please pursue. Do not leave it. If you have a good idea, please pursue it. Let it fail. But persuasion is important. Collaboration, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. These are the 5 soft skills most employers, successful institutions are looking for their employees, for their associates. And which are the top 10 hard skills? These are mostly now related to technology, which my colleague and other speaker, Dr. Prashant Nair, will take over. He is the authority on that. But the top 10 hard skills are blockchain, cloud compounding, analytical reasoning, artificial intelligence, AI. Way back in 2015, Dunlop and Dunlop published a book, Humans Need Not Apply. That book one must read. UX design, business analysis, affiliate marketing, sales. You have to sell everything. You have to sell. Even in HR, you have to sell your ideas. You have to convince your people. So these are the hard skills. Scientific community and video competition. In a days of restrictive travel, these are the forms of selling your product, selling your ideas, and selling your concepts. What I was looking at it, there is a survey done by the Association of Chemical Industries, and they talk that they have done a survey of more than 3,500 industries, and which are the impact. When we are talking about the impact, lack of raw material is impacting almost 18%. Productivity loss is the biggest of 25%. Insufficient staff because of the pandemic is 20%. Limited order is around 8%. Limited operations due to transport restriction is almost 29%. Now tell me, with this kind of limitation, what will happen to our talent pool? And what will happen to the employability of people? And therefore the skills, therefore these are the key features which is happening in 2020. What is going to happen? The era of networking has already been there. 91% of employees are using now social media to recruit. But mind you, 61% of employees have rejected candidate because of their social media behavior. And all big companies, good companies, reputed companies, they ask your social media accounts and they check it up. There are firms who can verify this. And another important thing is that what will be our employability? Our employability will be, what is the trend? The trend is for India will be 2.3% only has trained workforce. 54% of MBA holders are employable. Male to female ratio is 71:29. And in 2027, India will be the largest workforce in the world. If this is the situation, we need to act, we need to ponder that what is it that is going to help us. Government has come out with revised, changed labor codes. It has a very far-reaching impact for the persons who are employing 300 people, on safety, on well-being of people, and also on social securities. So government has come out with the acts, but finally the implementation lies with the executive body of the government. Government has also come out with new education policy where the vocational agenda has been put through. It is up to the university, it is up to the institution how best they are able to utilize this. That's an important aspect. And most important aspect in this, to me, it appears, is the employers, the employees, the industries decide which is your forte. Are you able to take a risk? Atmanirbhar is a concept. Your own Mr. Jadeja from Jyoti CNC, he came out with ventilator first time. Okay, there are a couple of hitches, but today he's doing well. Mahindras have come out with ventilator. These are the glaring example. All manufacturers of perfumes industry, they have gone for sanitization, sanitizers. They have gone for mask manufacturing. So it is the equal opportunity for all. Are we agile? Are we able to adapt these changes fast? They will win the race. Plan your future and leave the fear of failure. Most important is that we always have a back of mind the fear of failure. Somewhere we have to leave that and move forward. Play games. Games give you ideas, games give you creativity. Games give you lot of team playing features. Are we able to address those winning and failure and imbibe in ourselves? And most important is leave your comfort zone. Until and unless you leave your comfort zone and fathom into the troubled water, things are not going to change, because COVID is going to remain for a couple of years and we have to sail through this difficult time, and therefore understand the change is constant. It is the change will bring either you perform or perish. It's a challenging time. Now your home is your office. Who thought that people will work from home for all these months, maybe a year? Google has given indefinite period of work from home. Unilever is thinking the same. That is the way of life in a time to come. And embrace the change. This is the change. Be positive and think differently. Therefore, you will become creative. And be those employers are there, employee first. Look at the Tata's example. They are the people, benevolent employer. They may not be the number one, but in terms of employee engagement, those scores are unparalleled. And therefore, we have to see that if your employees are there, they are going to be with you and they are your critical resource. And how you are going to make them happy, how you are going to make them retain. Money is not the only thing. There are softer aspects. Are we able to take care of employee? Are we able to talk to them during this troubled time? Have we reached out to their families? These are the game-changing parameters. In Piramal, we have reached out to each and every employee of our 10,000 people once in a week, massive exercise, counselors, so that they feel that here is an organization, institution which cares. It requires an extra effort, extra mile to go, but long run, your attrition goes down, your critical talent pool remains. And therefore, communication, collaboration, commitment, creativity, and critical thinking, these are the four pillars on which the new regime will act. And finally, I would like to say that know your own SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. You do it on your own and take a plan. Are you able to spend time with your family? Are you aware your family member which is their favorite song, which is their favorite dish to eat? This is the time. This is the time to spend time and bridge a gap, bring a bond where in a difficult time family unites as a one unit. That's an important thing. And think and pursue your hobbies. Scientifically, it is proved that when you pursue your hobby with passion, it generates more ideas, more creativity, and more vigor to do difficult tasks. And this is the time where we need those qualities. And do not follow my request to all of you is Western concepts. We must Indianize those concepts and use it. And finally, the industry scene will change. Lot of artificial intelligence, AI, robotics, all will happen. But if you plan your career, if you plan your way out properly, you will have a better way to live, better way to survive. And lastly, I will close with a very famous quote by Mr. Roosevelt. Nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajada. It was very energetic and very thought-provoking. We all have been, making notes of your session and putting it in the chat box. It's some due to some technical issues. I guess a lot of people are not able to join the session. They are facing some difficulty joining. Otherwise, we had more than 60 registrations. But we'll upload this on YouTube and we'll share the link to them later on. Thank you so much. It's been very intriguing, and people are, you can read the comments. There's one person, I don't know the whole name, but he says, we as an organization, every Saturday, we do a pan-India call for employees and play games, and they are sharing their experiences. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
If there are any questions in between, we can take one or two, and then we may move to the next speaker. Does anybody wants to mention it here or want to unmute and ask themselves?
You can take these questions. They can write to me. They can write to you. I am all for available. Thank you.
Yes. Sure. Mr. Kalpit Sangvi, he's one of our vice president. He's saying he's congratulating you. Very down to earth, straight from heart session.
Thank you, sir. Normally, I don't make presentation. I believe that somewhere you have to touch the heart of people. If you want to make an appeal to the conscience of people, it is better that we talk and create a ropeway between the lives of people. Thank you.
Yes, touching all the aspects in a very simple way. So that's from Jain Kotecha. And some Sanjay Gupta is asking your contact details, so you may just mention it in the chat
Geo can
box.
give that details. Geo has all the details.
Sure. Great. We may move to our next speaker.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So next speaker is Mr. Prashant Nair, and his topic is on technology as enabler. We cannot move away from that. Let me just briefly introduce him. I hope he has joined. Prashantji, you have joined, right?
Yes, Forum, he's there.
Yes. I just inducted him recently, so I'm just checking. Yeah.
Yes.
So Prashantji, he is currently the co-founder of Asynthesis Indus Partners, and he holds a bachelor degree in mechanical engineering and doctorate from IIM Ahmedabad. He has various industry experience. He has worked in organizations like GEC, Alstom, and Indian Diversified Group, RPG Group. He headed the human resource function for Asia and Africa for Thomas Cook. He was member of Thomas Cook Global HR Directors Forum. He also headed global HR for Indian-based pharmaceutical MNC Cipla. And he has been to a lot of organizations as mentors and as guide, and taken many conferences, and as a speaker have mentored a lot of people. Thank you so much for accepting the offer, and the floor is yours. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here, and I have a presentation, which I would want to take you through. So, can I share the presentation? Okay.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. So something more. So good, and good evening, and thanks, Mr. Raizada, for that brilliant talk. I learned a lot of things, and it was superbly, it touched upon a lot of key aspects that that we are facing in the world today, and some of which I will also highlight in the course of my presentation. Feel absolutely free to put in any doubts or queries, anyone, either during the presentation or after the presentation. And we're very happy to address them. And if I don't know a lot of things, what are the answers to some of the queries that I'm raising, and I will actually honestly tell you I don't know. And such will be, because that's the state of the world that we are in today. A lot of people talk about new normal. That's the normal term that people use. I have a small difference with that term, new normal, because that assumes that we've arrived at a particular state. The fact is we don't know what state we are in today. And that's why I prefer to use the term random normal. If from X we move to Y, then we call it a new state, which is a normal state. But here we don't even know what's the condition that we are going to be in. And that's the reason why I use the word random normal. In the last 6 months, the world has seen the change that probably we've not seen in the last 6 years. Things like 2020, if someone were to ask you what would be the technological advance, we would have talked about going to Mars or going about, having augmented reality shape our life. Today, we are struggling to find a drug and vaccine for a virus. We talk about, artificial intelligence, machine learning, shaping every interaction that we are in. But the fact is, people are dying across the world for want of oxygen and ventilators. It's a state that no one would have imagined. It's a state that has come to the world. But surprisingly and positively, people are adapting to it every single day. The adaptability quotient, if I can use that word, is increasing as we are facing this pandemic. And that shows resilience on the part of the human race And that's the reason why human race has progressed and evolved over the course of time. So I want to start this presentation on a positive note that we humans, we Indians specifically, will face this and come out of this successfully. Okay. Let me just, to understand this more, better at a personal level. Now, I just wanted to ask this question: have your job been impacted by technology? And there are 4 options. All of you would be having smartphones. So if you can just go to the site www.menti.com, okay, and type in this number 4844686. So if you can just go to that site, menti.com, and type in that number 4844686. Okay, and just indicate your option about whether your job has been impacted by technology. So first option is job has been replaced. Second is significantly impacted. Third is to some extent, and not at all impacted is the 4th option. It's a live poll, so I can see how many have responded, and I will tell you the results immediately.
Can you repeat the code, Dr. Prashant?
4844686. It's in the slide, 4844686. And you have to go to menti.com, www.menti.com, and just indicate what your option is. Not many people are taking, there have been 3 responses so far. I would request more people to respond to it, so we get an idea about where the audience is as far as the impact on impact by technology is concerned. www.menti.com 4844686. You have to just indicate your option there. How many participants are there?
There are close to 30, but I guess some of them might be using their phone or laptop, and I don't know whether they are comfortable switching from Zoom to.
No, you can just go to the, if you are using a laptop, you can, it's easy, www.menti.com, and if you are using an Android browser, you just go to Chrome or anything, just press it. You come.
How many responses have you received, Dr. Prashant?
So far 9.
Okay. So let's wait for 1 or 2 more minutes and then we can take it forward. Yeah.
Some more responses, please.
I think we can move forward if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So that is, I got about 13 responses so far. And the response is 3 of them have said not at all impacted. 4 have said to some extent impacted. There are 5 of them who said significantly impacted and job has been replaced within 1. So very interesting, in a small group of 13, 10 of the 13 have job has been impacted by technology. So that, and I'm sure if you do the survey on a larger base of people, you will find the ratio to be as close as 70 to 80% of the people would say that a job has been impacted either significantly or to some extent, or the job has been replaced. And that's the situation now, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we in some years' time, the situation would be very different. Okay. So what are the realities we are facing now? And I think I'll quickly go through it, coming to the trends. What are the important realities is data is there everywhere. And data is not the oil, it's water now, because it's become essential for survival. Okay. Just look at each one of us. We interact, we work, we shop, we get in touch with friends. It's all using data and technology. Okay. And most of the organizations are using this data to churn out. And remember, if something is free, we are the product. Okay. So data is not the oil, it's the water. And the key question at the government level people are addressing is, should this water flow seamlessly across countries or should it not? And that's going to be a big debate in the world in years to come. So that's one big reality as far as the random normal is concerned. The second one, global challenges and opportunities. Okay, the world, because of COVID, may shift out of China, and herein lies the opportunities for countries like India. Okay. The technology, I think India has an edge in technology as far as the coding is concerned, as far as basic mathematics is concerned. And for those of you who know technology, would agree with me that mathematics is going to be the basis of technology development. So should India look at an opportunity here? Yes, it is. India has got an opportunity here in addressing the frontiers of technology. And one of the things that gives me confidence is, if you look at the technology, the employees of technological firms across the world, you will find a significant percent of them to be Indians. That gives me hope that India can play an important role in technology in the days to come. Okay. Device is the new workplace. I'm sure you got employees, some of you would have employees who've actually joined on the mobile. They're not seen the office. They've joined, they're employees, and you've only seen them through Zoom or an online version. So that's going to be their workplace. Device is the workplace. Just imagine this situation where we could not get out of the house, happening about 15 years back or 20 years back. The world would have come to a standstill. Today, the world is functioning, and functioning perhaps better in some areas than what it was previously. So device is the new workplace. And this will affect the workplace, and the workforce. And that's what I'm going to focus on in the next 15 minutes or so. How will it affect jobs and careers, as this reality is going to affect the workforce and workplace? it's important for us to realize one very important aspect. Across the time, right from 1960, when the average age of an organization was about 70 years, today we're looking at an average age of about 15 to 20 years. And this entire transformation that has been driven by technology and COVID is pushing organizations to shorter and shorter lifespan. In 2025, they are estimating the average life in organization to be about 10 years. And this is going to drop forward. What's the reason? The reason could be innovation, reason could be obsolescence, reasons could be changes that are driven by multiple factors. But the average life in organization doesn't mean that every organization is going to last 7 years. It only means that the average life of the organization is 7 years. So we should be in organizations, or we should shape organizations which exist more than 7 years. And that should be the joint endeavor of everyone, the government, the public sector, the private sector, and associations like all of you are in. So what are the trends given this overall scenario? The first trend is 60% of the jobs, existing jobs, will not be there in 2 to 3 years' time. Okay. And this is, there are studies which shows 70%, there are studies which show 80%, there are studies which show 40%. On average basis, most of the studies concur with this figure of 60 to 66% jobs will not be there in 2 to 3 years' time. The jobs will change. The nature of jobs will change. It doesn't mean jobs will not be there. It only means the existing jobs will not be there. And why is it so? Because of the impact of artificial intelligence and what machines can do. So if you look at this chart, and I'll take you through this chart, one very important variable they talk about is compassion. The other important variable they talk about is creativity. So jobs which require compassion and creativity, those are the jobs that will stay. The jobs which don't require creativity is purely driven by optimization, and where compassion is not required, where the human heart doesn't have a role to play, that will be taken over by AI. So we need to examine each of the jobs in your organization and see, can we optimize it better? Because that drives productivity. And if that job requires optimization and doesn't require compassion from a human heart, be rest assured that the job will be taken over by machines. It's a matter of time. So the jobs that are there, that are going to be there, one variable will be compassion, and the other variable will be creativity or strategic thinking. These are the jobs that are going to be there. So let me tell you some of the jobs that are going to be there, and some of the jobs that might be taken over by machines and that will be taken over by machines. For example, telesales, security guards. Interestingly, truck driver. I may not agree fully with this particular choice, but customer support, accounts executive, and so on and so forth. All these jobs will be replaced in a matter of time. In fact, if you ask me, they can be replaced at this point in time. And what are some of the jobs that will stay? For example, the chief executive officer, the marketing person, okay, the role of the HR person if he is not involved in operational things, and so on and so forth. And then we can debate about each job. Okay, there's a list of jobs. I don't want to bore you. If you want the presentation, I can send you across. You can look at what kind of jobs will stay and what kind of jobs may not stay. Okay, so the first trend that I'm seeing is 60% of the present jobs will not be there. Okay, so I picked up a recent report that a survey that Economic Times had done. Okay, look at some of the jobs that are staying. There are jobs that are in demand as we are talking today. Okay, software developers, sales executives, delivery staff, marketing executives, business analysts, data science, data analytics, cybersecurity professionals, investment research associates. So all the jobs that are there are technology related or are front end relating to a customer or engaging with a customer. Some of the skills, digital and coding skills, data, cloud, cybersecurity, digital marketing. So there are jobs getting created. The interesting thing is that the jobs getting created. And our endeavor towards present and future generation should be to reskill them in areas where there are jobs getting created, and not push them or not do anything that will actually compel them to pick up jobs which are presently probably available, but which doesn't have a future. This is very interesting. The mid-level is where the hiring seems to will take place in India in the next 6 to 8, 9 months. And where is the largest pool of people available? It's at entry and junior level. So there is a dissonance. And I go back to what Mr. Raizada said, unless we train them, they will not be able to pick up jobs that are in this bucket, in this bucket, in this bucket. It's extremely important for educational institutions, for private corporates, for the government, for bodies to have reskilling program or training program to actually help people in the skills so the jobs are going to be available in the future. And this trend is not going to stop. This trend will only increase and will compel us to pick up those skills which are important. So that's trend number 1. Trend number 2, age of the knowledge worker. We are in an era where capitalization is without capital. And the work can be done in many factories without workers. I'm sure you would have seen pictures of an Amazon delivery center in Germany and in US where there is not a single worker. So the capitalist structure, the capital is not important, the labor is not important. In our classic economic theory, we always learn that these are 2 important drivers of creating wealth. But where is the wealth going to be created? The wealth is going to be created by intangibles and what we call as a knowledge worker. And if you look at this chart that I'm going to show, okay, the non-routine cognitive jobs across the world have increased. Okay, whereas the other jobs have actually reduced, which means there will be a degrowth in the manual kind of jobs. So there is a premium to the knowledge worker, the person who can add knowledge value to the organization. The person who knows coding, for example. The person who can create something. Okay. So the knowledge worker, and that is the reason why if you look at educational institutions, they need to focus on creating either vocational skills, which can create something, or there needs to be institutions which can create knowledge workers. So the second important trend that I'm seeing is the age of the knowledge worker. The third important trend, okay, multiple careers. So my parents' generation, there was one career and a single job. My father worked in the railways all throughout his life. Single career, single job. A lot of us came into the environment, the corporate environment, where we got used to a single career but multiple jobs. I moved from Alstom to RPG to Pharmaceutical, and so on and so forth. Single career, but multiple jobs. Today we're seeing a different trend. Multiple career and multiple jobs. Okay, you move from HR to other areas, to supply chain to marketing, and then you say that I don't want employment anymore, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be a consultant. So multiple career, multiple jobs. And the future is going to be multiple career, multiple jobs, and multiple interests, because in the next generation that is going to come to the workplace, they may not want to do a job. They just may want to relax. They may want to create a career, if you call it that, of their hobby or interest. You know, the amount of YouTubers or bloggers who earn probably as much as a entry-level MBA is not funny. They earn probably more than a joint entry-level MBA will earn, or a MBA with about 5 to 6 years experience will earn. Then why do you want to join a corporate? I will pursue my hobby of traveling and create a YouTube and upload the YouTube. I can be an influencer in the YouTube. I can be a wildlife photographer, and my photographer can go all around the world. I got a friend of mine, she's in Delhi, and she's got a daughter, and some of you would have seen that video. You know what she's pursuing? She's just pursuing a career in hula loop. Okay, and she does it beautifully. And she's got a video, within one day, it got some 25,000 retweets, including Ms. Anand Mahindra and so on and so forth. She does corporate programs on that. And I asked Chitra, Chitra is her mother's name, Chitra, what will she do for a career? And she laughs and says that she is telling that this is her career. Let's imagine where the world is going, you know. So, you know, and this is very important, not only when we induct employees who are joining us, because 20% of them may not want a job, and they're not even interested in the job. And so on and so forth. So the trend 3 is what I call multiple careers. Trend 4, which is about education and career. How do you manage your education and career? Now, when we grew up, there was a formal education, and then there was a career. Of course, we had learning modules conducted by corporates. Tomorrow, we will see a fluid model. There will be formal education, which will be part of it. You'll start a career. We'll again have some education. We'll have a hobby. We'll move to a second career. Then there'll be another education, and so on and so forth. So your education, even formal or informal, will be a continuous process. It will not be a process which will stop at this point in time. It will continue. Because if you have to be ready for career 2, which may be a very different career, you need a specialization here in form of a formal education. We will soon come to the state where even for hobbies, there will be formal education. The new education policy that has been unveiled, and I see parts of it, there will be probably education opportunities for pursuing our hobbies. And that's a good thing to have in a country like India, with so much skills existing in different parts of the country. Okay. What's trend 5? Diverse workforce with flexibility. In interest of time, I will not go through the entire spectrum, but only one type of flexible workforce, which is the gig workers. Okay. The person adding value to you need not be your employee. How wonderful is it? What's your business in? Your business is in manufacturing, or your business is in creating value for the customer. Just invert the paradigm, and you will soon find there could be a lot of people who could add value to you. I know a lot of us, for example, I manage HR in 3 organizations. It's not that I'm there 24 hours. I go there once in a week, maybe twice in a week, or as the case may be. In fact, one client is in Bangalore, where I've not been able to visit for the last 6 months. But I manage their HR. There's a small team there. There's a young team who takes my directions, go about working. I look at the talent management part, and I give HR head. I write my card. I can give my card as an HR head of that organization, but I'm actually on dick. So the value added by contractors, gig employees, will increase over time. And this is going to be big in India. Okay. When they did a survey, 49% of organizations already employ gig workers, and 65% of them plan to increase the gig workers in 2 to 5 years' time. Okay. Previously, it was about the lower level talent or lower level employees that people were focusing on. But today, you could have a chief head of marketing on gig, you could have a head of finance on gig, you could have a head of HR on gig, and so on and so forth. Technology has enabled people to actually do this, both from an employer point, both from an organization point, and both from an individual point. And it gives me freedom, and it gives the employer flexibility. Think at an advantage, you know, where a person is not attached to you, you know, the flexibility that you have with respect to the person and the flexibility that the individual has. And is the commitment down? I don't think so. It's also called Uberization of talent. Okay, that's trend 5. And trend 6, the concept of office itself is changed. Okay. Now, you know, we will soon have what is called the work-ready homes, where today a lot of homes in India are not equipped to take work. Understandably so, even from a social point. Will this trend continue in India? I'm not so sure. We may be driven by presentism, which is the way we look at things depends on where we are now. But I'm sure what will happen is there will be a section of employees who will want to work from home, and there'll be a section of employees who would want to come to an office. And there'll be a third section who would want an hybrid model. Till 6 months back, organizations would not have agreed to this option. Today and in future, more and more organizations will be open to that concept, will be open to that flexibility. What does it give you? It gives you a wealth of talent that will come and work with you. Now combine these two trends. There could be a gig and a flexible person sitting at home. You could employ lots of housewives who have got the best of education and are sitting at home because of social or family reasons. They could be aged people who may not want to travel every day in a city like Bombay or Ahmedabad or Baroda, but who may want to come and work with you, who may want to give knowledge because their wisdom is infinite. Look at the opportunities that these two trends have thrown up. And 7th, the last trend which I see is the design, the organization design. Today, a typical organization this is the shape of a typical organization. This was supposed to be the shape, and now it is actually converted to a cylinder. What it does is, we spend a lot of time in non-value adding activities. In this entire pie, the real activity that adds value is this, solving client problems. But we spend an enormous amount of time convincing and presenting to our management what we did to the client. That's the way the structure is designed. And when a structure is designed by functional silos, what happens is each function is trying to cut the other because they are pursuing functional objectives. What may happen is we may see flattening of the organization structure, and we may see what is called network organizations, where organizations will not be driven by functional silos, but will be driven by project teams or will be driven by objectives. There's a concept called OKRs, which is actually gaining ground in many organizations, where goals are set for one objective of the organization and not based on functional or departmental goals. It brings together what everyone needs to do to achieve something. This is a network organization that I talked about. Okay, we can go on and on in this, but the fact is that's going to happen in time to come. So what do we do? What should we do? I'll take 5 more minutes, madam. I hope I can take 5 more minutes.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir, you can, please.
Can I take 5 more minutes?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Madam?
Yes, sir, you can.
Sir, you can continue for more 5 minutes. Yes, okay, sir. Please, Prashant ji.
Yeah. So what do we do? So I always say, how do we measure the strength of an organization? How good is an organization? To me, the strength of the organization is known by who's on the bench. It's not about the talent that I see. It's about talent behind the organization. What's the talent depth that is there in the organization? What's the succession plan? What's the career development opportunities? How many have grown in the organization? That's the strength of the organization. Towards that, what should we do? There are 4 P's that I talked about. One is purpose. We should move away from policy-driven organization to purpose-driven organization. Okay. And I give you an example of Cipla where I worked. Okay. Cipla, when I joined Cipla, there was nowhere in Cipla would you find mission and vision statements anywhere in the world. But I ask an average employee of Cipla, what does Cipla stand for? And he will tell you either in Hindi or in regional language or in English that Cipla stood for something of producing quality drugs at low prices than as compared to the Western world. Something, he will not tell you this sentence, but he will tell you something to that effect. That's the reason why, one of the reasons why Cipla has got a low rate of attrition as compared to a lot of the pharma companies. It's driven by a purpose of one gentleman called Dr. Hamid. The second P is platform. I talked about gig workers. I talked about diversity. I talked about people who may not be wanting to work. How does HR, how does leadership create a platform to engage these people? So that they act as your employees, they act as the organization representatives. The third P is productivity, always important. And that's where I always say, machine may not beat a human being, but a human being with a machine will always beat a human being acting alone. And the fourth, perhaps the most important P is people and talent. Need to engage and develop talent. We need to look at succession planning. In family-driven organizations, succession planning is extremely important. How do you create a governance culture? How do you create ownership in employees? So these are the 4 P's. And quickly coming to what individuals should do during this time. Human beings are defined more by the changes they undergo than by any continuity. Okay, we need to bring changes to ourselves. And so what are the 5 things that critical capabilities that are going to be there? Apart from the technical capabilities, one is leadership ability. There's a lot of focus on authentic leadership. Okay. Leadership, people are now intelligent to understand what is show, what people are doing for virtue signaling, and what people are doing for creating a brand, and whether a person is authentic and genuine. Authenticity and genuineness is counted now. Second is entrepreneurial thinking. I don't need to tell people in Gujarat about entrepreneurial thinking, but kaam karna hai. Kaam humko, we need to achieve something. That's entrepreneurial thinking. Finding a way out is entrepreneurial thinking. A stands for agility and resilience. And the last 6 months, those who are agile and resilient have done well, and those who are not have failed. The R stands for risk-taking and decision-making. The role of a leader is always to take a decision. You will not have all the facts with you. You will not have all the data with you. You need to take that risk and decide. And that's going to be a critical trait for leadership tomorrow. And last but not the least, the N stands for networks. Create network and work in teams, collaborative working. So that's learn. And learn itself is going to be very important. Unlearning and relearning is going to be important. So I'll summarize what are the trends. 60% of jobs will not be there. Age of the knowledge worker, multiple careers, education and career, diversity and flexible employment. The concept of office has changed. 7 is organization design. What should the organizations do? 4 P's. And what are the individual critical capabilities? Learn, leadership, entrepreneurial adaptability, agility, risk-taking and decision-making, networking and collaborating. So with that, our work starts as of now, and that's, I end my presentation with a great quote of Swami Vivekananda. Each one of you has a glorious future if you dare believe. Have a tremendous faith in yourself, like the faith I had when I was young. Have that faith, each one of you yourself, that eternal power is lodged in every soul. You will revive the whole of India. Let's commit ourselves to this concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and this COVID, this great, what we saw as stumbling stones might be the stepping stone for each one of us and India's country. Jai Hind, and thank you. God bless.
Thank you so much, Prashantji. It was wonderful. Like we, since the starting, we have got your compliments on the presentation you have prepared with all the statistics and all the nitty-gritties. I hope I'm audible to you.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah. So, and there are a lot of questions flooding in. Should I take one by one? I'll just speak out from the chat. So there are also, we have people have put on all the main points in the chat room, so one can just refer it whenever you feel like. And one is that participants are asking the presentation at the end of the session if they can get it, or if we can even upload it somewhere, and we can share the link, whichever is convenient to you.
Sure, I'll send the presentation to you. You could share it.
Sure. So first question is concept of office and home has changed, rather changing. How long will this go? And there is further comment on that what is being called new normal will again have shift in 2021 with ease of new things learned, and old psyche will persist. So do you think that we'll get back to our old self again?
Good question. Very good question. So I'll tell you some of this behavior changes that we're seeing is part of what I call reptilian behavior. What is reptilian behavior? In psychology, we call it reptilian behavior is a behavior that is driven out of fear. Okay? And it is like reptiles. The first instinct of us will, if any human being, any living being, is to survive. Okay? So at this point in time, there is a fear of disease. There is a fear of what will happen in terms of economy, in terms of disease, and so on and so forth. Okay. And as a, I would also say that it's a question of when the vaccine will come. It's not a question of if the vaccine will come. It's a question of when. Okay. So post the vaccine coming in, a lot of this fear will be negated. Okay. So some of this behavior that you see out of fear will go away. But human beings have got a very intrinsic tendency, like that once they taste the success, they hold on to that success, actually, those success factors. Okay. Industrial age, for example, we moved from horse-driven carriages to cars. We didn't go back to horse-driven carriages. Okay. And technology is a great enabler for such things. Okay. So once some of this habits will go, but the technology dependency that we are showing will, I think, continue for long. Okay. The concept of office, I think over time what will happen is there will be a hybrid kind of model. Like I said, there are three kinds of jobs. One job which necessarily requires a person to be on the field. Second, a job that requires, that can be done sitting at home. And third, it's a mix, it's a hybrid. On the converse, there will be individuals who have got three kinds of need. One, a person who wants to be in the field, who can't sit at home. Second, a person who cannot move out of the house, they have to be in house. And third, a person who is equal in both. So the job of HR people and leadership would be to match these three needs and meet three demands. But one thing which will stay, the two things which will stay, one will be the technology dependence, and second will be the flexibility, the concept of flexibility that has come in organizations. And these two things will stay. I hope I've answered the question. We can go on and but I'm just trying to answer it.
This was from Kalpit ji, and this two-part question from Ripple Patel.
Yeah.
One is on the gig part, that whether let me just I'm just losing the track of the question. Let me just paraphrase it. So yeah, will gig worker create big economy, and is gig workers new normal? And specifically to manufacturing sector, what is the effect? Will the service sector be affected more, or the manufacturing one?
So I think gig was always there. Okay, the concept of gig was always there for the last 3 years. Okay. And one must distinguish between contractual employment and gig employment. Contractual is a kind of agreement between the individual or the firm, okay, or a firm representing the individuals. Gig is a taxi cab relationship, essentially. Many of what we call gig is more of contractual and not really gig. But gig will, what last 6 months have done is the concept of gig has got accelerated. Why has it got accelerated? From an organization point of view, gig gives you cost arbitrage. You can convert a fixed cost into a variable cost and a flexible cost. That's a big advantage for organizations when they are under pressure of cost and performance. Second, gig gives an advantage for an individual to have career progression in a very innovative way. Previously, our career progression was driven only by one dimension, which was going up the ladder. Today, when supposing a person reaches the level of HR head, okay, what does he do next? Okay, and don't think I'm talking about myself. Yes, actually, Thomas Cook HR head, then Cipla HR head, then some other organizations. Means, what do you do? I asked that question after 40 years of my life. Today, people are asking that question at 25 years of their life. Why should I only go in one direction? I'm a beautiful guitar singer. Why can't I practice guitar and have give a concert on 2 days in a week? How will I achieve that? I can achieve that if I get into a gig form of employment. Okay. Has the ecosystem completely opened out and welcoming of gig? Answer is no. Organizations are still struggling with how values can be inculcated, how identity of an employee can be given, and so on and so forth. Okay, how a gig person can take accountability for what his delivery is. Also, the social system has not matured enough to accept gig employees. If you're caught in a traffic, the traffic cop is going to ask you, where do you work? And you say, I'm a gig employee, I work in 3 firms. Instead of that, you say that I work with Tatas or Piramal's. The response is very different. Forget that. You go to your house and say, I'm a gig employee. They will say that what has happened to you. So the social acceptance of the concept of gig has yet to come in. Will it come in? Definitely, it will come in. Okay. As more and more people step into this, it will come in. Okay. And whether it's manufacturing or service, I go back to what I told earlier. There are 3 kinds of job and there are 3 kinds of need. In every sector, it is applicable. Maybe the percentages will change in manufacturing and services to some extent. Hardcore manufacturing, where workers are more, you would have to be in the plant. Okay, so there will be a greater percentage that will be needed on the shop floor as compared to a services sector, a lot of which can be operated in a hybrid model. I hope I have answered the question.
Yes, surely. With the gig part, accountability and credibility are the challenges currently. Moving on to next, we have last 2 questions. One is a personal one, seeking for advice, and one is on from Chetan Kothari. India is overhyped on demographic dividend. What's future for unorganized sector where technology is eating job opportunities?
Very good question. Fantastic question. I personally think the reality is that we have got 50 odd percentage of people below the age of 25, 50 plus percentage of people below the age of 25. If we don't do anything about it, it's going to be a disaster. So we need to do something about it. What gives me hope is, there is almost a consensus between the industry and the government that labor laws need to be changed to give more flexible employment and to convert a lot of, which will actually encourage conversion of unorganized to organized workers. The challenge before a public policy at this point in time would actually be how to get more people into formal employment, and also how to skill them. We just saw the data. The industry is not expecting to hire at the junior level or at the entry level. There is a hiring taking place at the middle level. But some hiring will take place at the junior level, and instead of hiring an unskilled worker, you definitely want a skilled worker. It's as simple as that. Instead of hiring an engineering person without knowing coding, you will want to hire an engineering person who knows coding. So I think it has to be a collective effort from the government, the industry, the institutes, the employer organizations like yourself. How do we skill people? To me, the single most challenge is not unemployment. The challenge is underemployment in India. And that's what we need to address. What I am hopeful about this is that because there is a sort of consensus emerging in different quarters. Even if you see the resistance that is there in the different, it is pretty, it's pretty muted resistance. So that gives me hope. People are realizing that we need to do something for skilling. We need to do something for unorganized workers. If all of us, each one of us who are in position of power or influence or who can control wealth, who can control the direction and destiny, can focus on skilling, I think India would reap the benefit. Because as they say, in 2050, Lancet has projected India to be the third largest economy in the world, even with whatever we are doing. So if you do something, maybe we will become the third largest economy, not in 2050, but in 2040. And that's what all of us should aspire and strive for. Each of us can make a difference. Let me tell you, each of us can make a difference. And I'll give you an example here. We are a company. I am an advisory board of invested in a company called Zing HR, which is a HR technology platform. And what we've done in the last 2 months is that we realized that there is a lot of people who come after short service commission in the armed forces, extremely skilled, extremely committed to the country, who want to get into the corporate world, but who find adjusting to the corporate world very difficult because the corporate world and armed forces function very differently. Then there are permanent commission people who have been slightly injured, injured from a point of a fighter aircraft or a submarine or something like that. But normal, as fit as probably many of, or more fitter than probably all of us. But they can't find a fighter pilot, so their career opportunities, are not that great. So all of these people are extremely skilled and talented. They're widows of armed forces people who are sitting at home who need employment. They're Jawans who retired early. We started an initiative with an NGO on trying to equip people from the armed forces to the corporate world. This corporate world would require their adaptability, their resilience, their ability to face uncertainty. And the first batch, we just completed the first batch with 20 odd people, and 10 of them, 9 of them have already got placement in companies. So, and this is a very small effort by a very small company. We're just 300 people, and we are, it's a startup in the technology space. It's a thing that we are doing. Okay. I'm sure all of you can, if we combine our effort, if we can each make an impact on 10 to 20 people every, every quarter, I think we would have made a difference to about 500 people in the course of a couple of years. And that's how the spillover effect takes place. Sorry, I gave a slightly long answer to a very important question.
No issue. Thank you so much. There's a person, Akshit Tandukia, and he has a personal question. If the person like him have a zeal to hold a leadership position and have been student of MBA Finance currently, how he can start his career in HR, significantly go for higher leadership role. So it's a I guess personal mentoring sort of. We have couple of students also here, and I guess after listening to all the stuff around employability, they're kind of scared.
So I think with an MBA, many field you can go to what you want to do. I think gone are the days when the corporate would insist that you are an MBA finance, you should start your career in finance. But to make a long answer short, I think he should find a good mentor for whom he can actually work with and pick up on some of the skills that Mr. Raizada spoke about earlier, pick up on something from my presentation, because they're all there actually for the critical skills for the future of organization, for the future of individuals. I think if you ask me, one very important skill that is there is, there are two very important skills that I advise in MBA. One is to make it happen, the attitude to make it happen. That's very important. Karna hai. That Josh should be there actually. I can't find English replacement for the word Josh, but Josh is Josh. Karna hai. That's one thing. And the second is how to work with people. I think if you have these two skills, the hard skills are easy to pick up. Technology skills are easy to pick up. These are two things that, according to me, that makes a difference. And I've interacted with a lot of my batchmates, a lot of my course mates with IIM Ahmedabad over 4 years that I was there. All of them are pretty intelligent people, okay, but very few go on to become CEOs or CXOs of functions. Why is that? It's not about intelligence, it's not about hard skills, it's about the soft skills. It's about the attitude of wanting to make a difference and how to work with people, how to get things done by people in a way that they really appreciate you, how to influence people. I think these are the most important skills that you need to pick up. And to help you there, get yourself a very good mentor who can actually work with you.
Great.
I would like to add here that largely what happens that these MBA guys, I'm not against MBA, but everybody wants to occupy a corner office very fast. It does not happen that way. It's a bitter reality of life. One has to grind himself and spend time on the grassroots level. Understand, see, the knowledge domain is more important, because the moment you become leader, it is expected that knowledge domain is with you. But rightly said that very few can become CEO or the CFO, because the people domain is very important. Your interpersonal skills, your communication level, your collaborative skills, these are some of the things which are very important. Unless you do this, it is very difficult to reach at the top. See, you can reach at the top, but remaining there on the top is a much bigger question. And your attitude will decide your altitude. This is a very famous saying. That will help. So basically, the young professionals must grind themselves, get an overall experience, then find out a niche function or the specialized function, and then you can move on to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Akshat has already commented that yes, definitely, sir. Thank you for the advice. Our chairman has quoted one thing, for more power. I quote, I did is more valuable than I said. So that's a wonderful insight. And we do have 1 second. I'll just stop the screen sharing. Deepak bhai, somehow you are starting the screen sharing. If you can close it. It is not stopping from my end.
Deepak bhai has to stop the screen sharing.
Yes, yes. Done. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we truly, like as both of the speakers say, that you can find wonderful mentors. So we have Prashant ji and Raijada sir. Now we have connected to them. In our audience, we have Manish Parmar, who is also in HR professional, and he do have induct interns and train them for longer period of time. So you can connect to them. You can write to us. I've mentioned the email IDs of GEO and RMA. You can get in touch with us. We can connect you to people and can get mentorship. And thank you so much, both the speakers. It was wonderful. Like this though the speaker, though the participants were a small group of people, but the session was very interactive. A lot of questions had come in, and we are afraid we cannot take more questions. It's already 15 minutes past, and we can sum up the session with a formal vote of thanks. We'll share the presentation. We'll share the YouTube link once we upload it on YouTube. And thank you so much once again. Over to you, Jain bhai.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. On behalf of Rajkot Management Association, on my personal behalf, I would like to thank you, GEO and Mr. Kothari and the office bearer of all the GEO team. Thank you, both the speakers, Mr. Raijada and Mr. Prashant Nair. It was very wonderful interactive session, and it was very insightful. You touched upon all the every aspect of the employability. Thank you for giving the justice to the topic. As forum mentioned, like some people would not able to join, so we'll share those presentation and this entire thing on YouTube, and we'll keep in touch with you. We love to be in touch with you further information. And thank you, the member of other local management association who came and encouraged us. Thank you, entire team of Rajkot Management Association, like our chairman Chetan sir and President Mr. Parag, and entire team who did the wonderful job. At last, like I would thank you all the participants who have made this session very interactive and lively. And last but not least, I would like to thank Amita ji and Forum for the arranging entire session, coordinating the things. Thank you all. Thank you all of you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Wonderful audience.
Thank you so much, Raizada sir and Prashant ji for our request, and thanks Forum for all the coordination. Thanks to Kothari sir, that through him I could get in touch with the management of RMA, and we could get associated for this particular session, and looking forward for more association and more such programs. Thank you one and all.
And I want to visit Rajkot whenever everything becomes a bit
Yes,
normal.
Yeah, please welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day. Thank you.